if you're like me, you probably like the Pokemon trading card game. Why else would you be watching this channel, to be honest? That's kind of all we do here. And no one likes Pokemon more than the Japanese do. Pokemon is massive in Japan. It's much bigger than it is in the West. If we take a look over here, these are something called City League tournaments. City Leagues are the equivalent of our League Cups, and it is one of the main ways for Japanese players to qualify for Worlds. I might be mistaken on this, but I'm pretty sure that you can only attend 4 City Leagues per season as a Japanese player. I will confirm. So there'll be a note on the screen if I'm wrong. If I'm right, there should be nothing. But yeah, so I'm pretty sure you can only attend 1 per quarter, totaling 4 per season. And then obviously, if you get the higher you place, the more points you get. And then I think it's the top 40 players in championship points on the leaderboard qualify for Worlds, and then you also get some extra players if you qualify through Champions Leagues and stuff. So you got the Japanese Championship, you've got the Champions Leagues, which would be like Miyagi, Tokyo, Osaka, all those ones, and then you've got City Leagues. So that's kind of how it goes there. I guess it would be for us, it's international events, NAIC, UIC, then you've got regionals, and you've got SPEs, right? So that's probably the kind of order it goes here. And then for gym challenges and stuff, those don't award any championship points. I'm pretty sure there are some special ones that award championship points, but they're like league challenges. They don't really award many points. But anyway, that's a brief explanation. Might be inaccurate of the how the Japanese point system works. Let's take a look into some of these decks. Before we go any further, please do smash like and subscribe if you can. It really helps the channel a lot. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of May, and we are close, very close. Alright, first up, we've got a deck that everyone knows, everyone loves, unless you Dragapult. We've got City League in Shiga on the 1st of May, God of War. So, God of War in Japan looks a little bit different than it does in the West. Obviously, we have Shaman, which is basically Manaphy. For the people that don't know what Shaman does, it's a bench barrier, and it prevents all damage done to Pokemon on the bench that don't have a rule box. So, for example, Ralts and Curlier would be protected, God of War wouldn't. And then you've got TM Evos. So, Japanese lists lean into TM Evo quite a lot more than they do into Badoo. A lot of these decks don't play that many Badoo and just try and get Evos out as fast as possible. So the thing is with the West right now, Terror Box is quite good. So Torrential Pump is a threat to these kinds of decks. Whereas in Japan, now thanks to Shaman and Torrential Pump kind of falling off, TM Evo is a lot more consistent to set up and get your Curliers and God of Wars going. Over here we have a 3-3-3 God of War line, whereas in the West usually you'd see a 3-2-2 God of War line with 2-3 Rare Candy and no TM Evos. The rest of the deck seems kind of standard. However, only one Gust is a bit sketchy. It is a little bit more of a consistent list, I'd say, though. Like, we're playing 4 Arven, 4 Research, 3 Iono, and high accounts of Vessel, and a little bit low accounts of Night Stretcher. We do see a lot of these decks play 4 Night Stretcher, and cutting down to 2, I'm not too sure how much I like that, but obviously it did win the tournament. And yeah, before we move on, if we just take a quick look at the other God of War lists that also placed in this tournament, they are very similar. Like over here, this one's playing Double Catcher and a little bit of a high count of the Night Stretcher, but still the TM Evo, still the lower Badoo lines, and still the thicker Guardy lines, 3-3-2. This one cutting down on 1 God of War EX, but also just only 1 Rare Candy. Moving on to Kanagawa, we've got another really massive deck in Japan. It is probably the most common deck in Japan. It is Raging Bolt. In a format that is best of 1 with a 25-minute time limit, and there's no ties. If you end up tying, you just get a game loss. Both of you lose, basically. So playing faster decks is definitely seen as a plus in Japan. That's why we really don't see many stall and control players in Japan, and the control decks that do play usually end up trying to take prize cards anyway, because you can't time your opponent out. So that's why those decks are a lot more common in these best of 3 tournaments in our format, whereas over there, they are very rare. Anyway, this is a very standard Raging Bolt list. Obviously, nowadays they are playing Slitherwing thanks to the emergence of Pikachu EX. Slitherwing does 120 damage and it also burns, so that means it just kills the Pikachu because it does 120, even though that'll do 190 thanks to the Focus Sash ability. It will die to the burn, and a plus of that is that they can't use Fez because they died to burn, and that was in between turns, not during your turn. Other than that, it's a very standard list. Nothing crazy. Jamming Tower, obviously Jamming Tower is really good because the other best deck in format is Gardevoir, so that hurts Gardevoir in the early game and mid game, late game, because early game they have to TM Evo, and mid to late game they're going to be using their Bravery Charms. So Jamming Tower, really good card, and we will be coming back to that card a little bit later in the video. Before we move on, I just wanted to look at this list in Kanagawa, the same one we just looked at. This is a Dragapult deck. However, it's not any Dragapult deck, it is a Blaziken Dragapult deck. And there's actually been quite a few of these popping up. Now that Jamming Tower is so strong in the format, you don't see many crystals. So Dragapult doesn't have many ways to accelerate energy other than Crispin and Neo Upper Energy, but Blaziken allows you to not only accelerate energy, it also allows you to focus on another card that I think is probably the best card in the game, Munkidori, right? So if you know what Blaziken does, very simple, it attaches an energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon, and that's about it, right? So the idea is you can get some energy in the bin and power up Dragapults a little bit faster. You can have access to multiple Munkidoris, and even just Blaziken itself doing 200 damage. It's not a bad attack, right? Then you've got the Baby Blaziken, which does 120, and then you discard 2 energy, and then it also does 120 to one of your opponent's benched. So being able to set up Blaziken EXs and the Baby Blaziken, you can now have Snipe and stuff, and this does open up the A-Spec slot. You don't have to play the Neo Upper or the Crystal for Unfair Stamp, which is also a very powerful A-Spec in these Dragapult decks. We do see heavier TM Evo lines thanks to Badu, and obviously Shaman is in the deck. Jamming Tower as well, just that countermeasure for God. Speaking of Dragapult, if we take a look at the City League in Tokyo, the winner was Dragapult, and it was Dragapult Bomb. If you do know anything about the Japanese meta, you'll know that they love Dragapult Bomb. The straightforward Dragapult without Bomb never really picked up there. It's always been Dragapult Dusknoir. However, this list is a little bit different. You might take notice to the A-Spec being Neo Upper Energy thanks to the emergence of Jamming Tower, and since we are using our own Jamming Tower. And if we take a look at the supporter line, right, this isn't a very common supporter line that you'd see in a normal Dragapult deck. We're playing 4 Research, Friono, 3 Carmine, and a Boss's Orders. We also play a Squawk, so this is obviously a deck that wants to go first, and it wants to be a lot more aggressive. We are playing 2 Ray Candy. Most of these decks do play 2 Ray Candy, and we are playing 3 counter catches, because if we take a look at the bomb lines, we're playing a 3-3-1 bomb line with 4 Night Stretcher. So this deck is just going max aggression and max consistency with these incredibly heavy supporter lines. We're also playing a Super Rod plus 4 Night Stretchers. I'm sure you can probably cut down to maybe 3 Night Stretchers and add something else, because now we're playing Super Rods since we're playing heavy discard supporter lines, and then a 4-4-2 Dragapult line. We're still playing the Shaman. So yeah, this deck, honestly, if you are looking for a Dragapult deck in the next format, I think this over here is a really consistent deck. You have to remember that the format is best of one. That is why these decks really do look a bit weirder compared to ours. There's a lot less one-offs. Like, you're going to go through the deck and see that with the trainers, there's 2, 3, 4 one-offs, being a boss, Super Rod, Rescue Stretcher, Rescue Board, and Jamming Tower, right? So there's a lot more one-offs nowadays there's a lot less one-offs nowadays in these lists. Going back up to the 30th of April, Kyoto, we had Roaring Moon take the dub home. This is a deck that's actually been emerging a lot more in the Western world as well. It is Roaring Moon Poison Box. So the idea is you go first, and you have this incredibly aggressive deck with the double Squawk, the 4 Carmines, and the Secret Box, and you try and get donks against decks like Dragapult and against Gardevoir. So while Peckrunt's in the active, and when you pass, poisoned Pokemon take 5 more damage. So if you add the 5 damage there to the Perilous Jungle and the poison activation from Brute Bonnet, that's 80 damage. So going first, you can actually get this off and just donk your opponent, and that's kind of funny. And it also ups the damage of things like the Baby Moon. Now, if we count how many ancient cards are on the deck, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. It's 18. So if, let's say, we have 15 in the bin, 15 plus 7, that's doing 220, plus the 80, that's 300 damage. That's not that bad, right? It's actually quite good. And then obviously the Roaring Moon, that means Calamity Storm can be doing also 300 damage, and Frenzied Gouging just kills them anyway. But yeah, so it does let you hit these higher numbers with the 1 prize Roaring Moon, and just a 1 prize hitting around 250 to 300 is really good, right? So obviously you can hit these high numbers, but it just means you have to have less Ancients in play, and you're gonna need at least 3 in play, being 1 Brute Bonnet, 1 Booster Capsule, and 1 Roaring Moon, so the max you can realistically do is around 300. Moving on, we've got ourselves, we have the Dunsparce Dura. Nothing really crazy about this deck, just going consistent, going with the easy gust options. Only 1 Turo, 1 Black Belt, so yeah, kind of just a consistent deck there. Looks cool. A deck that we haven't looked at yet is actually Marnie's deck. So we actually don't have access to this card just yet, but if we take a quick look at Marnie's Grimmsnarl, its ability is insane. So when you evolve it, you can search a deck for up to 5 dark energy and attach them to your Marnie's Pokemon any way you like. So it's basically just Charizard's ability, Infernal Rain, but like for 5 instead of 3, which is crazy. And then the attack, it isn't insane, but it is quite good. So for 2 energy, 180, and then also 32 one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. And this does stack when you're playing 3 Munkidori and the Frostlass. So the idea is you stack energy onto these guys, use E-Switch to get onto the Munkidori, and then you have Freezing Shroud that does damage to all your Pokemon. You have Munkidori to move that damage back. Marnie's Grimmsnarl, which is, I guess, a little bit more a self-sufficient attacker, whereas Dragapult you have to keep attaching to it, and it opens up space for the for extra cards. So we saw the other one was playing Unfair Stamp, this one is playing Secret Box, because you also have now access to Spikemouth. And Spikemouth, just once during your turn, search your deck for Marnie's Pokemon, put your hand, then yeah. So it is quite consistent. This deck, I think, is going to be quite good when it comes out in the Western world, because, well, you one-shot Guardy, and that's pretty good, right? One-shotting Guardy is really cool, and also just doing 30 to maybe kill a Badoo is also really nice. And you have Frostlass to do that extra damage, and you have Munkidori to move more damage around. You have Maractus for cool little checkmate plays to just get stuff trapped in the active while your Frostlass and Munkidori build up damage. So there is a lot of cool plays and potential with this deck, and I'm sure when it does release, we'll be seeing a little bit. Moving on, down to Hokkaido, we had Chika with Terrabox, and I love Terrabox. It's one of my favorite decks, probably my favorite deck right now. It reminds me of Lost Box, and shout out Chika for doing well with it over in Hokkaido. So the deck honestly hasn't changed much. It just depends on how you want to play it. This deck's playing Munkidori because Munkidori is broken, but they are playing Quad Gust, which I'm not too sure about Quad Gust. I only play Double Gust plus a Hyper Blower guy. I don't remember his name. Iron Bundle and Quad Crispin. But it honestly, it's just preference to however you want to play it. And this deck just looks good. It is still a really strong deck if you do go first and they aren't able to set up Shaman. Then Torrential Pump is still an incredibly strong attack because of how easy it is to set up. Like 1 Crystal and 1 Crispin and you're there. And if you go first and attach, you don't even need the Crispin. You can just go Crystal manual attach, right? And then you can boss stuff around. So it is still a really strong deck. They are starting to lean more into the Ogerpon, because nowadays Pikachu is incredibly strong. You do kind of want to be hitting these consistent Pikachu attacks, so you do want an extra Ogerpon and to be able to just draw these cards and also have more access to grass energy for the Pika. In the same tournament, a little bit further down, we had Terapagos. So this deck never really picked up that much in Japan, the Tankpagos, how we call it. This one's playing Max Belt as the ace spec because of the low damage output, but the deck never really blew up there. This one's not playing the Fighting Ogerpon. It's just leaning into the Crown Opal attack, actually. So Crown Opal, it is really good in Japan, mainly because this is a very popular deck. Everyone knows Joltik Box. So yeah, this kind of loses to the Tankpagos. Your only answer is the Ursaluna, and you can only do it once, and Ursaluna doesn't even one-shot the Terrapagos. So Tank Pagos is really good. It also walls out Raging Bolt, right? So Raging Bolt doesn't actually have any answers to the Terrapagos other than Fan Rotom and Noctowl, and honestly, attacking with Fan Rotom or Noctowl into a deck that is playing Double Monkey Dory is kind of a death sentence because you're just upping their damage. Like if someone hits me with Speedwing into my Terrapagos, I'm just gonna go Monkey Dory, right? And even if I have 2 Bouflans set up, the Speedwing's not doing any damage, and Fan Rotom's doing 10. So it's a long day for those decks coming up against Tank Pagos. Something that has been actually popping up a little bit more in Japan is Charizard again. All right, so we thought he was dead, but he's actually kind of making a bit of a comeback. He was kind of dead, obviously. When rotation came around, Charizard just died. Badoo and Dragapult being the best decks in format, Charizard just stood no chance. But now that Dragapult is kind of falling off, which is crazy to say, and Guardy on the rise, Charizard, he's happy about that, right? He eats Guardies, and less Dragapult means more wins for Charizard, and that's why more Charizards have been actually popping up. And if you can't beat them, join them. So in second place, we had this deck, which was Dragapult Charizard, which is also a pretty strong deck. Obviously, Dragapult, we know just how good he is, and then Charizard as well. If Dragapult struggles against Gardevoir, then just set up Charizard, right? That's not bad, because now you have an answer to the Gardevoir, and then against Dragapult, you have your own Dragapult to try and kind of counteract that battle. We also have our Pokemon League headquarters, just because of Raging Bolt being incredibly common. So scrolling a little bit further down, we find ourselves in Oita on the 29th. Oh, no, we clicked on the wrong one. Sorry, Okinawa. We had Zoroark actually take the dub. So Zoroark has, I can't lie, been a little bit underwhelming, right? Zoroark hasn't really done too much. It really does suck, because Zoroark is just such a cool card. So I'm not too sure why there's a Pecorant in the deck, because it doesn't really look like there's a way for you to poison them unless I'm missing something. So maybe it's just you attack with Poison Chain. You're playing an E-Switch, so I guess it's possible. You also have your Janine Secret Arts, but yeah, I'm not too sure what the Pecorant's doing in the deck. Maybe it's just to finish stuff up and just not give them access to Fez. But regardless, no, actually, I have no clue. No, never mind. I bought something, but no clue. Interesting about this list, though, is the Hero's Cape, right? Zoroark having 380 HP, pretty good. Not bad. Ends Dominaten having 240 HP, pretty good. Not bad. So that's another thing that Zoroark has been struggling with right now. It's crazy to me that we're in a world where hitting 280 damage just isn't that difficult, right? Like, it's not difficult. Like, if we take a look at the format around it, right? This deck has basically an infinite damage output. We had Gardevoir, really easy hit to hit 280. We have Bomb Bolt, which also not difficult to hit 280. Goldengo, really easy to hit 280. Flareon hits 280. So that's the thing right now, is that Zoroark has been kind of struggling with its lower HP. So yeah, it is still a pretty cool list. Quite consistent for Arven and Iono, and then 4 Nest, 3 Puffin, 3 Point Up, and yeah, deck's cool. Shout out Zoroark. I think it's a really good deck. It's just hasn't gotten the love I think it deserves. Going back one page, and we do just kind of have more of the same. A deck we haven't really covered yet is one of my favorite decks, actually. I love this card, mainly just because of the Cramorant, right? Any deck that has Cramorant in it is a great deck. So we all know what Zacian does nowadays. Zacian does 30 to the active and then 30 to the bench. It's a very similar, or it's the exact same attack as Buzzwole GX used to have back in the day. However, Insta Strike can hit for 120, and that's with the help of Hop's Band, which does plus 30 and lets you attack for 1 less energy. Potswick, which does 30 more damage, lets your Hops Pokemon do 30 more damage, and then Snorlax, which is the exact same ability as the Potswick. So you could be doing 120 to the active and then 30 to the bench, which is really cool, especially with decks playing Badoo. You can kind of just go Iron Bundle, swing into whatever they bring up, and then also just knock out the Badoo. You also have access to Team Rocket's Surprise Bomb, which is a really cool card. Flip a coin. If heads, put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. If tails, put them on one of your Pokemon. And that doesn't really matter, because if it flips tails, you just go Monkey Dory, move that damage back, right? But it does allow you now to hit these extra, like this little bit of extra damage. So since so many decks now are playing these Squawkabilly, it just lets you get that little bit extra damage into squawks and stuff. Like if you flip 1 heads, like it just lets you get that little bit of extra damage around the board. Like now you can just monkey and move stuff onto routes if they already had any damage on it, or if you can just set up double monkey if there's any damage organization, maybe from Calamitous Snow Mountain. You can now, you know, use a bomb, move 20 with the monkey, or even if the bomb misses, if the bomb hits them for 20, then you can use Snow Mountain attached to your Monkey Dory and move that 20 now to the routes, and then go Insta Strike, kill the active, and then do that last 30 to the routes, which will equal the 70, and then take 2 prizes there. So it just kind of fixes your math. You are playing Unfair Stamp. A lot of them have been playing the Secret Box. Ace-Spec and Prime Catcher is probably the most common one that you see. So this list is quite cool with Unfair Stamp. It's also playing 3 Judges. It's not a card you see very often since Arc Tina rotated. Arc was the most prominent abuser of Judge. Shout out Judge Path. 07 for Judge Path. Moving on to our last deck of the day, we have something that hasn't released yet in the Western world. We've got ourselves Ethan's Typhlosion and Victini. So Victini just says you get to do 10 more damage for your Fire Evolution Pokemon. It does stack, so you can do 20 here. And then Ethan, for 1 energy, it does Body Blast, 40 plus, so 60 damage for each Ethan's Venture card in your discard pile. So in the end, that totals to 80, plus the Victinis, that's 300. 300 on a 1 prizer for 1 energy is pretty damn good, if you ask me. With Gravity Mountain, that just does 330 basically, and then Vengeful Punch, it does 340 technically. So you are hitting these higher numbers. The issue is you have to get the Ethan's cards into your discard pile, and being able to find these cards to put into your discard pile is a little bit difficult. The Ethan's Adventure is actually a pretty good supporter, so it's just search a deck for up to 3 in any combinations of Ethan, Pokemon, and basic Fire Energy cards, put them into your hand. A cool ability that you have on your Quilava is just straight up search a deck for an Ethan's Adventure card, right? So, and you can use more than 1 of these in a turn. So if you have like 3 of these set up, you can just search for 3 of these and then use like an Ultra Ball and a Vessel or whatever. Sorry, there's no Vessels in this deck. You could technically search your deck for 3 Ethan's Adventure cards, rip Secret Box, grab your last Adventure card with an Ultra Ball and discard that as well, right? So it is quite cool. I think this deck is actually really strong. If there was a way to kind of compare this deck, it would be Feraligatr. However, I think this deck is a bit more consistent than Feraligatr, but Feraligatr does have that option to abuse Monkey Dory, whereas this deck does not. Another card in this deck that is quite strong is the Kodak, Psyduck. So it's a pretty cool card. You guys probably know what it does by now. It just says Pokemon with an ability that cause that Pokemon to knock itself out don't have that ability. So if we read ourselves either of these guys over here, once during your turn, you may put 30 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon. If you use this ability, this Pokemon is knocked out. You can't use it anymore, right? So against these Dragapult bomb decks, you just can't use your bombs, which is kind of sucks because your entire deck revolves around doing that damage. So being able to shut that down with this Psyduck is insane. And then also you got Shaman. These two are insanely strong support Pokemon that I think are making the game a lot healthier and allowing sick decks like these to emerge. If you guys like the video, please give it a thumbs up, remember to subscribe, and I will see you guys next Sunday for the next City League Sunday. Peace.